The night before Father's Day, my phone buzzed with a message that shattered my world, then completely reshaped it. My brother tagged me in our family group chat. "Stay home. We're tired of your side of the family." I waited for my parents to defend me, but instead, Mom and Dad simply liked his message. Heartbroken but entirely done with their disrespect, I replied with two simple words: "Message received." They laughed it off, completely ignoring me as they continued enthusiastically chatting about their upcoming luxury trip. They thought they had finally pushed me out of the family circle. What they didn't realize was that they had just sealed their own financial doom. Exactly 5 minutes later, at 11:30 p.m., the family chat completely erupted with frantic notifications as reality crashed down on them. Follow my story until the end to see the exact moment their smiles turned to pure terror. My name is Stella, and I am 34 years old. For as long as I can remember, I have been the invisible ghost in my own family, a quiet observer to my own life. I am a corporate accountant, a profession built on structure, balance sheets, and numbers that never lie. Unfortunately, human emotion isn't nearly as logical as math. My parents only seemed to remember my phone number when a bill was due, an emergency arose, or when my younger brother, Julian, managed to dig himself into another financial grave. Julian was the classic golden child. At 31, he possessed an unmatched talent for failing upward while maintaining an attitude of supreme, unearned arrogance. He could crash a car, lose a job, or default on a massive loan, and my parents would still comfort him, whispering that the world simply wasn't ready for his genius. Meanwhile, my husband and our two beautiful children were treated like distant, annoying acquaintances. Over the past decade, I had quietly bankrolled family gatherings, paid off Julian's mounting credit card balances to protect my parents' credit, and even covered their home repairs. I never asked for a medal. I just wanted to be seen, to be valued, to feel like I belonged. But to them, my stability wasn't a point of pride. It was just an open checkbook. My family took everything I had to offer, completely blind to the fact that the very structure keeping their lives afloat belonged to the daughter they constantly looked down upon. The days leading up to Father's Day weekend were incredibly hectic for me. As always, the mental load of organizing the family gathering had fallen entirely on my shoulders. I had spent hours coordinating schedules, booking a private room at an upscale steakhouse downtown, and quietly transferring funds to ensure the entire evening was completely paid for in advance. I wanted my father to have a wonderful day, and more than that, I wanted my husband and children to finally enjoy a peaceful, harmonious evening with my side of the family. But my illusions of family harmony were completely shattered on Friday night. I was sitting on the couch with my husband watching a movie when my phone screen lit up with a notification from our family group chat. It was a message from Julian, and he had explicitly tagged my name. I opened it, expecting a question about the restaurant directions. Instead, the words burned into my eyes. "Stay home. We're tired of your side of the family." My breath caught in my throat. I stared at the screen, waiting for the inevitable reprimand from my parents. Surely they would put him in his place. But as I watched the screen, the ultimate disrespect unfolded in real time. A tiny notification popped up. Mom had liked the message. A second later, Dad added a thumbs-up emoji. They weren't just letting it slide, they were actively celebrating my exclusion. It was a calculated, unified front designed to push me out. A cold, heavy numbness washed over me as I sat in the dim light of my living room. For years, I had made excuses for them, convincing myself that their coldness was just a misunderstanding or a generational gap. But seeing those digital thumbs up from my own parents on a message meant to humiliate my children and husband changed something deep inside me. The desperate, approval-seeking daughter died in that exact moment. In her place stood a woman who finally knew her worth. I took a deep breath, tapped out a direct response, and sent 2 simple words into the chat. Message received. The reaction from my family was immediate, and it was entirely telling. They didn't apologize, and they didn't even try to soften the blow. Instead, Julian posted a laughing emoji, and my mother seamlessly changed the subject, completely ignoring my acknowledgement. Within seconds, the chat screen was flooded with their excited messages, screenshots, and links as they continued bragging about their upcoming all-expenses-paid multi-week summer vacation to Hawaii. They were already celebrating their freedom from my presence. As I watched their enthusiastic texts fly back and forth, a slow, icy smile crept onto my face. In their frantic eagerness to cast me out into the cold, my family had completely forgotten one massive, undeniable reality. I was the sole architect of that entire dream vacation. Every flight, every premium rental car, and the luxury beachfront villa had been booked through my corporate accounts. They thought they had won, but they had actually just handed me the match to burn it all down. I didn't waste another second crying. Instead, I stood up, walked over to my home office, and opened my laptop. The time for quiet compliance was officially over. I logged directly into my premium travel portals and business management accounts. My family had spent months demanding the best of everything for their upcoming tropical getaway, but because Julian's credit was ruined and my parents lived on a fixed budget, they had relied entirely on my corporate status and platinum lines to secure the bookings. They truly believed my financial support was an entitlement, a permanent faucet that would never be turned off no matter how cruelly they treated me. With a few methodical clicks, I began reclaiming my life. First, I pulled up the reservation for the luxury beachfront villa in Maui, canceled. Next, I brought up the first-class airline tickets I had meticulously coordinated for my parents and Julian, canceled. Finally, I terminated the premium SUV rental agreements. Every single booking vanished from the system in a matter of seconds, returning the corporate points and cash back directly into my own accounts. Before I tell you what happened next, comment the city you're watching from so I can see how far my story has reached. I sat back and watched the clock on my wall tick down. It was almost 11:30 p.m., exactly 5 minutes after Julian had sent that toxic text message. For the final blow, I opened my banking app and completely revoked Julian's authorized user status on my secondary business account, freezing the emergency line he had been secretly using to fund his lavish weekend lifestyle. I closed my laptop, took a sip of water, and waited for the inevitable digital explosion. The silence in my house didn't last long. Exactly 5 minutes after my family had laughed me out of the group chat, my phone began to vibrate violently against the desk. The timeline of their impending doom unfolded rapidly, precisely as the notification started rolling in at 11:30 p.m. The arrogant facade they had built up over years of taking advantage of me completely shattered in a matter of seconds. At exactly 11:30 p.m., Julian's name popped up on the screen. His message was frantic, stripped of all the previous bravado. He stated that his card had just been embarrassingly declined at an upscale late-night venue downtown, and worse, he had received an automated notification that his flight tickets for the trip had been mysteriously voided. He demanded to know if there was a glitch in the banking system. 2 minutes later, at 11:32 p.m., my mother chimed into the chat, her messages typed in panicked all caps. She screamed that the luxury beachfront villa management had just sent an automated email stating their booking was canceled by the owner due to a payment reversal. By 11:33 p.m., my father finally broke his silence. The thumbs-up emoji was long gone, replaced by demanding texts trying to understand how their dream vacation had vanished into thin air. They were all desperately trying to connect the dots, completely blind to the fact that the daughter they had discarded just minutes earlier was the one who had quietly pulled the plug. The realization hit them like a physical blow, and the dynamic in the group chat shifted instantly. The patronizing bullying vanished, replaced by a wave of desperate pleading. My phone began ringing continuously, Julian's name flashing on the screen over and over, followed closely by my mother's. I refused to press answer. If they wanted to communicate, they would have to do it in writing, where every single word of their sudden hypocrisy would be permanently documented. When the calls went unanswered, the text messages poured into the chat. Julian's tone had done a complete U-turn. He was suddenly playing the victim, claiming he was just joking and that I was overreacting to family banter, but I was entirely done with his manipulation. I dropped the ultimate truth bomb right into the middle of their panic. I texted back, informing them that I hadn't just canceled the luxury vacation. I had also officially notified the fraud department about Julian's unauthorized use of my secondary business credit line to clear his personal gambling debts. The chat went completely dead for a moment before my mother started begging, pleading with me not to ruin her golden boy's life over a misunderstanding. She wrote that we were family, and that family protects each other. But their definition of protection was entirely one-sided. I locked my phone, leaving it face down on the desk. Let them sweat through the night before Father's Day, watching their financial house of cards collapse into ash. For the first time in 34 years, I held all the power, and I refused to give it back. The next morning, Father's Day arrived with a beautiful, uninterrupted silence. My phone stayed locked in my desk drawer, completely silenced from the toxic tidal wave of incoming calls and frantic apologies. Instead of enduring another stressful dinner where my family criticized my life while quietly spending my money, I spent the entire day right where I belonged. I made a homemade breakfast for my wonderful husband, and we spent the afternoon playing with our 2 children in the backyard. For the first time in my adult life, the heavy, suffocating cloud of trying to buy my family's love was completely gone. The fallout for them was swift and severe. Because I refused to reinstate the bookings, their grand Hawaiian vacation was permanently ruined. Julian was forced to downsize his lavish lifestyle immediately to pay back the unauthorized business funds before formal legal action was taken. My parents were left stranded at home, finally forced to realize that the daughter they treated like an outsider was the only reason they enjoyed any luxury at all. Disrespect, as it turned out, carries a very steep price tag. Building my own business taught me that everything eventually has to balance out, and the same goes for life. I stood up for my family, reclaimed my dignity, and proved that I am no longer their open checkbook. Now, I want to hear from all of you. What would you have done if your own brother sent you a text like that? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on the next story on your screen for more satisfying tales of ultimate situational justice.